I was never one to make a big deal about my birthday, and usually would just celebrate with my family. But for my Sweet 16, I felt like doing something special. I decided to throw a camping party at a nearby camping ground. I wasn't going to be like typical camping with sleeping bags, bugs, and tents. Instead, it would be sort of like glamping. We were planning to rent a cabin for the night. We would all have our own beds and would have access to a kitchen and bathrooms. On the day of the party, my parents helped me decorate the cabin before my friends arrived. We hung streamers, blew up balloons, and lit candles to make the place feel festive and fun. After my 4 friends arrived, my parents dropped off pizza for us to have dinner before returning home. My mom had been a little worried about leaving us alone at the cabin all night without an adult there, but I convinced her that I was old enough to take care of myself. I promised to double check that all the doors were locked and give her a call if anything sketchy happened. Everything started out fine. We were having a great time laughing, telling stories, and eating junk food. Once it started to get dark out, we decided to roast marshmallows and make s'mores at the fire pit just outside the cabin. One of my friends was telling us some story she heard on a true crime show, and we were all giggling and huddling together, not wanting to admit that the story was actually scary. Suddenly, there was a crunch of a stick breaking nearby, and we all jumped up, looking around to see what had caused the noise. After a few tense moments of silence, one of my friends dismissed the sound, saying it was probably just a deer or some other type of animal. Deep down, I doubted this explanation because I knew most animals out in the woods weren't big enough to make such a loud cracking sound. Reluctantly, we went back to our business. One of my friends was telling us about the first date she had just had with this guy she had been crushing on for ages, and we quickly became so immersed in her story that we forgot about the strange sound. That was at least until it happened again, but this time the sound was even closer and much louder. It sounded like sticks breaking underfoot. This time, I suggested that we all head into the cabin for the night. My friends didn't need any convincing, and we all headed inside. I took one last look around before shutting the door behind myself and locking it, making sure the deadbolt was latched properly. It was getting late at this point, and I suggested we put on a movie before going to bed. My friends agreed, but told me no horror movies or anything scary. We settled on a rom-com we found on Netflix and all snuggled up in the living room to watch it before hitting the hay. There were 2 bedrooms upstairs, each with 2 beds in them. I decided that because I was the host, I would let my friends take the upstairs bedrooms and I would crash on the couch. Everyone said goodnight and headed off to bed. I got myself situated on the couch with a pillow and a blanket and scrolled through my phone, my eyes growing increasingly heavy. I finally plugged my phone into the charger and laid down, slowly drifting off to sleep. I think I had only been asleep for a few minutes before I was jarred awake by the sound of scratching at the front door. I immediately sat up straight, my heart pounding. I got up and approached the door, pressing my ear against it. This was an old cabin, and there were no peephole on the door, so I had no way of seeing what or who was outside. I knew I didn't want to wake up my friends. After all, it would only creep them out, and I was fairly certain it was just an animal anyway. But then the direction of the sound changed. It was no longer at the door, but the living room window. Someone was tapping on the glass pane. I dropped to the floor, not wanting anyone to see me. There were heavy drapes covering every window, but I didn't know if there was a slight gap in the fabric that someone could peer in through. I got on my hands and knees and crawled across the room towards the direction of the sound. Once I reached the window, I carefully moved the drapes over just an inch so I could see out. What I saw when I looked out made my blood run cold. I saw a face staring back at me. It was an older man with a black baseball hat on with a black bandana underneath. He smiled at me sadistically and waved at me as if he was taunting me. He was holding what appeared to be a crowbar in one arm. He then pointed at the front door as if to tell me to let him in. I dropped the curtain back and raced upstairs to where my friends were sleeping. I flung open the first bedroom door and anxiously told them to wake up and that there was some creeper at the door. They were confused at first, still half asleep, but as soon as I said creeper, they became fully awake and on guard. By this point, the noise of my warnings had woken my 2 other friends in the next room, who came to see what was going on. They seemed skeptical at first, asking me if I was sure I hadn't just been dreaming. I assured them I was awake and was certain of what I saw and heard. Just then was the sound of heavy pounding on the front door. This time, everyone knew I wasn't just messing around. We all looked around at one another in complete and utter terror. We didn't know what to do. We were just 5 young girls in the woods, all alone. Our cell phones were all plugged in downstairs, and we would have to go down to retrieve them in order to call for help. We all huddled together, making a mutual decision to go downstairs as a group. We tiptoed quietly, even though the man clearly already knew we were here. We didn't want him to know our location within the cabin. The pounding was getting louder, and it appeared as if the creeper was getting angry. He was clearly deranged. One of my friends went to grab her phone while the rest of us looked around for something we could use as a weapon. I ransacked the utility closet and pulled out a broom, thinking I could use the wooden handle to my advantage. One of my friends found a large steak knife in the kitchen, while another grabbed some pepper spray from her purse. The girl that had been tasked with calling for help called out to me from the living room. She said her phone service was patchy and she was having trouble getting through. I told her to hold on and I'd check to see if I could get through on my phone. But before I even had the time to make my way to the living room, the creeper began smashing the door down, causing us all to scream. He was laughing at us like a maniac and using the crowbar to smash through the door. The wood the door was made of was old and weak, and he was getting through easily. After only a few more hits, his head was sticking through. All but one of us were losing our minds at this point. This was except for my friend that had thought to grab the pepper spray. She confidently approached the door and sprayed the man directly in the face with the toxic smelling spray. It burned his nose and eyes, causing him to scream out profanities. I used his brief moment of weakness to clock him over the head with the handle of the broom, causing him to fall down. I could see through the shattered door that he appeared to be motionless on the ground. Then I grabbed my phone from where it was lying on the couch and urged my friends to follow me upstairs. We knew that the creepy psychopath could wake up and come after us at any moment. He would easily be able to get through the shattered door, and nothing was stopping him from coming after us. My friends and I all ran into one of the bedrooms and locked the door behind ourselves. They began working together to put the large trundle bed against the door, so we would at least have some sort of barrier if the man managed to get through that door too. I was on my phone desperately trying to get through to the police. I don't know if it was due to my higher elevation by being upstairs, but miraculously I heard the phone ringing and knew my call went through. As soon as the operator picked up, I explained our situation in a hushed voice. I told them exactly where our cabin was located and how many of us there were. She urged us to stay put in the bedroom and be as quiet as possible until police arrived. We said we would. It felt like it took ages for the police to arrive, but before long we heard sirens and could see flashing lights outside our cabin. Tons of police had arrived on golf carts. They pulled the man up and hauled him away in handcuffs. The police then greeted us, making sure we were uninjured. We were all untouched, but shaken up and wanted to go home. The police stayed with us at the cabin until all of our parents arrived to take us home. We later found out that the man was a local predator who was hyped up on illegal drugs when he tried to break into the cabin. It was a nightmare of a night, and I can only be grateful all of us made it out of those woods alive. What would you have done in this situation? Drop a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe. Sleep tight.